I walked into my room after a 12-hour shift at the pizza place, and the entire top shelf of my closet was empty. My vintage denim jacket, the one I spent 4 months hunting down on Depop, was gone. My mom had given it to my cousin while I was at work. Let me back up and explain my family because context matters here. I'm 17. My name's Elijah. I live with my mom, my dad, and my younger sister Bria, who's 13. We're not rich, but we're not struggling either. Like, we live in a decent three-bedroom house, everyone has what they need, bills get paid. My parents are both working professionals. Mom's an office manager, dad's in logistics for a shipping company. They're good people. I want to be really clear about that because this story is going to make them sound a certain way, and I need you to know that they love me and I love them. That's what makes all of this so frustrating. It's not coming from a place of cruelty. It's coming from a place of principle, and honestly, that almost makes it worse. My parents grew up with very little. Mom was one of 6 kids in a two-bedroom apartment. Dad's family moved around a lot, and he's told me stories about wearing the same pair of shoes until they literally fell apart. So they have this deep, almost allergic reaction to what they see as excess. And I get that. I respect that. But somewhere along the way, their definition of excess started overlapping with my definition of just having things I care about. I started working at 15. I got my first job bussing tables at an Italian restaurant near our house, and now I work at a pizza shop doing closing shifts on weekends and a couple weekday evenings. Everything I buy for myself comes from that money. My parents don't give me an allowance, and they haven't bought my clothes since I was maybe 14. I pay for my own shoes, my own jackets, my own music equipment. I have a little MIDI keyboard and a pair of studio headphones I saved 3 months to buy. So when I say these are my things, I don't mean that in some bratty, everything is mine teenager way. I mean I literally exchanged hours of my life for these items. They are purchased with money I earned while smelling like pepperoni and mopping floors at 11 at night. The giving away thing didn't start all at once. It crept in slowly, the way these things always do. The first time I really noticed, I was 16 and looking for this hoodie I liked. It was just a simple black Nike hoodie, nothing designer, but it fit perfectly and I wore it all the time. I asked my mom where it was and she casually said, "Oh, I gave that to your cousin Marcus. He needed something warm and you have plenty of hoodies." I had maybe 4 hoodies. 4. That's not an unreasonable number. I was annoyed, but I let it go because she was right that Marcus needed a coat, and I figured it was a one-time thing. Then a few weeks later, a pair of my running shoes disappeared. She gave them to a neighbor's kid. They were slightly too small for me, she said, even though they fit fine. Then my dad got involved. He went through my closet one Saturday while I was working and pulled out what he decided were redundant items. He put 6 t-shirts, 2 pairs of jeans, and a flannel into a donation bag. When I got home and noticed, he said, "Nobody needs that many clothes, Elijah. There are people who don't have 1 pair of jeans and you're hoarding 4. Hoarding 4 pairs of jeans is hoarding." I tried to explain that I bought those with my own money, and he said, "Good, then you understand the value of things, and you should understand that holding onto more than you need is selfish." That became the family motto, apparently. More than you need is selfish. The day everything blew up was a Saturday in November. I'd worked a double shift the day before, Friday night into Saturday morning, covering for a coworker who was sick. I came home around noon, completely dead on my feet, and went straight to my room to crash. When I opened my closet to grab a t-shirt to sleep in, I noticed the gap immediately. The top shelf. I keep my favorite things up there. My vintage Levi's denim jacket from probably the early 90s that I found on Depop after months of searching. This really cool oversized corduroy shirt I got from a thrift store in the city, and a band tee from a Mitski concert that my friend gave me as a birthday gift. All gone. I stood there for maybe 10 seconds just staring at the empty shelf, and then I walked into the kitchen where my mom was making lunch. I said, "Where are my things from the top shelf?" And she didn't even look up from the cutting board. She just said, "Your cousin Nia was here this morning with Auntie Rose. She's starting college next month and needed some things to fill out her wardrobe. I gave her a few pieces you never wear." I said, "I wear all of those. I wore the denim jacket last week." She said, "Elijah, you have enough. Nia is starting a new chapter and she doesn't have the luxury of a closet full of options. You should be happy to help family." And something in me just snapped, not in a yelling way, in a calm, terrifyingly calm way that honestly scared even me. I said, "You need to get them back." My mom finally looked up. She put the knife down. She said, "Excuse me?" I said, "Those are mine. I paid for them. You didn't ask me. I want them back." She stared at me like I'd slapped her across the face. What followed was the worst argument we've ever had. My dad came in from the garage and immediately sided with my mom, which I expected. He said I was being materialistic and that my attitude was exactly the kind of selfishness they'd been trying to raise me not to have. I told him that it wasn't selfish to want to keep things I worked for, and he said, You work a part-time pizza job, Elijah. Don't act like you're out here breaking your back. That one hurt. That one really hurt because he knows how hard I work. He knows I come home with burns on my arms from the oven. He knows I gave up hanging out with my friends most weekends to pick up extra shifts. For him to minimize that just to win an argument felt like a betrayal. My sister Bria was sitting on the couch in the living room pretending to be on her phone, and I could see her watching us. I said, "Would you go into Bria's room and give away her stuff without asking?" And my mom said, "Bria doesn't have an excess of things," which is insane because Bria has more clothes than I do. She has an entire drawer just for pajamas, but Bria's stuff came from my parents, so apparently that makes it different in their minds. My stuff, the stuff I bought, was somehow more available for redistribution because I earned it myself. The logic was so backward it made my head spin. I told them that from now on, I wanted a lock on my door. My dad laughed, actually laughed. He said, "You're not locking any doors in my house." I said, "Then stop taking my things out of my room." And my mom said the thing that sent me over the edge. She said, "As long as you live under this roof, nothing in this house is exclusively yours." I grabbed my backpack, put my MIDI keyboard and my headphones and my laptop in it and walked to my friend Devin's house. I didn't yell. I didn't slam the door. I just left. Here's the part I didn't know until 3 days later when I finally went home. My Aunt Rose had actually offered to pay me for the jacket and the other clothes. She told my mom, "Let me at least give Elijah some money for these since they're so nice." My mom said no. She told my aunt it was a gift from the family and that accepting money for it would be rude. So not only did my mom give away my things without asking, she actively turned down compensation on my behalf. She made a decision about my property and then made a second decision about the money someone tried to give me for that property. When I found this out, it was because Nia herself texted me to say thank you and mentioned that her mom had tried to pay. Nia had no idea any of this was a problem. She genuinely thought I'd offered the stuff willingly. Things are weird right now. I've been home for about 2 weeks. We're all being painfully polite, which in my family is worse than yelling. My dad did agree to one thing, which is that they'll ask before giving anything away going forward. He called it a compromise, like agreeing not to take my stuff is some generous concession. I never got the jacket back. I couldn't ask Nia for it because she didn't do anything wrong, and honestly, she probably loves it, and that thought makes me feel guilty for even being mad. My mom thinks I overreacted. She keeps making little comments like, "I hope when you have your own family you're more generous than this." And every time she says it, I feel this tiny crack in my chest because part of me wonders if she's right. Maybe I am too attached to stuff. Maybe I should be more willing to share. But then I think about standing in that pizza shop at 11:30 at night, covered in flour, counting down the minutes until I can go home, and I think no. I earned those things. The question I can't stop asking myself is this. Were my parents teaching me an important lesson about generosity, and I'm just too young and selfish to see it? Or were they disrespecting me and my work because it's easier to be generous with someone else's stuff? I genuinely don't know. What do you think?